Hello, Liz here from Liz Rocks and Stuff, here with episode 5 of What's in My Tumbler. The first rocks we're going to check today are the amber. So we're going to get those outside and we're going to rinse them off in the colander like we always do. So let's see how that slurry's looking. And it's still brown, but a lighter brown. Looking a lot better in my opinion. At the bottom of the barrel there is some grit left. There are some things sticking to the bottom still, but what I think I'm going to do is let this tumble for a little bit longer. So I do put this back in stage 1, but I think I'm going to leave it there for 2 weeks instead of 1, just to see what happens. This is entirely an experiment to see what can I do with this amber. Bringing the amber inside now, I'm going to just spread this all out so I can take a look, see how it's going. It does still have a lot of that brown crust, especially on the bigger pieces. The smaller ones are kind of looking okay, but a lot of them also still aren't quite where I want them to be. You can see I'm kind of wiping my fingers off a lot because all those little shards just keep sticking to my fingers and to all of the other rocks. I'm still going to leave them in there because they don't hurt anything. There's nothing that I feel is really ready to move on to stage 2. There's some pieces that are round enough, but they're not really ready to move on. They still have that brown crust. They don't look the way I want them to. So we're just going to put everything back in the barrel. And there is a lot to put back in the barrel. And then once we get everything back in the barrel, I am going to put it into stage 1 grit again, and then we will just leave it there. So this is me getting the water and then my stage 1 grit. I'm only putting in 1 tablespoon. This just isn't going through the grit the way that it maybe would if it was a heavier, different kind of rock. So I'm just putting 1 tablespoon in, and I am going to leave it in there for 2 weeks. There's no harm in leaving rocks in longer necessarily. Sometimes it can tumble them down a little bit more, but not always. And like I said, this is an experiment. I'm just trying to see what happens with this amber if I kind of treat it a little bit rough. So this is going to go into stage 1 for 2 weeks. Alright, once I get that lid on, I'm just going to label this the same way I've been doing. It's amber and in stage 1. And the last barrel for today is the Trolleite. Small confession with this one. I did not put this into stage 2 last week. I looked at it and just felt like maybe one more week in stage 1 might do it some good. So I did put it back into stage 1. Didn't really make a huge difference. It still looks largely the same. It still didn't use quite all of the grit like I was hoping that it would, but that is what it is. And I just felt when I was putting it in the barrel last week, I really felt like I needed to just try one more time in stage 1 to see if I could get those other couple of sides nice and smooth. Ultimately, it didn't really happen. I'll pick the rock up in just a second and kind of show you. It largely looks the same as it has for the past few weeks. So this does go into stage 2 this time, and I'm just going to move it all the way through up to stage 4 to see how it goes. So that's, you can see it's very wet here, but it's still smooth on those 2 sides, and then the other sides are all still not as smooth as I would like. And bringing it inside now, we dump it all out, take a look at it, just confirm, yeah, it's definitely smaller than when I started. It has ground down quite a bit, but it's just not grinding down on those 2 sides that are still very rough. So putting everything back into the barrel now, and then I'm going to add some more rocks to this because you can see it's still not as full as I'd maybe like. And so these rocks are just river rock from my rock beds outside. things that I don't really care about how they turn out, but they'll go all the way through stage 4 with this rock. All right, so now I've got the barrel as full as I want it, and I'm bringing out my stage 2. You can see it says stage 2. I'm running low on my stage 2 grit right now, but I do have a shipment of grit and some new rocks coming in, which I'm very excited about. Those will hopefully be here in a couple of days, and then they can get started once the quartz and dragon bloodstone get finished. So I do have a plan for those rocks that are coming in, and I do need them to be finished at a certain time. So they're getting bumped up over the rocks that I've had in line for quite a while. So now that those are in the barrel, we are going to top it off and relabel it as stage 2 and put it on the tumbler. These are going to sit in stage 2 for a week, and then we will check on them next week to see how they're doing, and then do just like we would any other rock. We're going to burnish them and then put them into stage 3. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching. That's all for this week, and I'll see you next week for the next installment.